So something that I've been seeing a lot talked about online is this idea of white privilege. And I see on one side, people are like, no, white people definitely have privilege. And then on the other side, the response is like, no, I worked for everything that I got. Like, you don't know my story. My parents were poor. Like, we worked hard. I did 60 hours a week. And like, so there's no such thing as white privilege. You got to work hard. I got to work hard. We all got to work hard. And as I'm seeing both sides, I'm feeling like we're just like missing each other, like trains in the night.
Sure.
So I want to know really what exactly is white privilege, and to you, is this a real thing?
It is a real thing. It means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. Sometimes when people say white privilege, they do believe that every white person, as black people, they believe every white person has great credit. Every white person comes from a home of wealth. Like, you live in a trailer, but it's on 100 acres. So, you know.
Oh, okay.
And so there is that idea.
Yeah.
And that's an error. That's not true. That's not accurate. I know a lot of white people that struggle just like my family struggled and put their kids in school and provide good opportunities and make bad decisions too. Mm-hmm. And then there are shades of it, this idea of white privilege. And I think probably the most accurate, and I think this would sum it up, is the idea that there are advantages that are in the favor of being born white. Advantages in economics, advantages in education. And somebody says, man, that's not true. That's a thing of the past. Well, it's really not. And that's not my lived experience. That's not how I grew up. And I grew up in a very culturally diverse area, but I did not have some of those types of advantages, things that were not extended to me. Have things gotten better? Absolutely. I went on a long walk yesterday, Justin. It almost killed me because my good friend, Dr. Tom Evans over at Max Life Events, he had me climb this staircase, and he kept just saying, we're almost there. I was like, dude, you've been saying that since
you just lying, bro.
I wanted to like slap him and push him down the stairs and be like, now, are we there yet? Are we there? But the truth of the matter is, I looked back and I was way further than I had been, but I was so far from where I wanted to be. And I think that's what the black community experiences. We are way further than we have been.
Yeah.
We're much further along. There has been progress. We can't say that there's been no progress, but we're just so far from where we need to be. And I think that's what is experienced when people say white privilege.
I'm wondering what is the end goal? Because sometimes I see things on the internet where people are like, maybe it's more of a fear response. Like, man, if we give them everything they want, then there's going to be the opposite of this kind of disparity. Sure. I think about like things like, okay, so as an Asian American, like I think about things like affirmative action. Sure. And I'm like, okay, on the surface that sounds really cool, but then I found out like a lot of my Asian brothers and sisters, you know, who got straight A's, who got the 4.3 GPA. It's like it seems like it's actually making it harder for my generation or my race to make it into the same school or something along those lines. And it seems like there's a fear of, well, if we do something to try and fix this disparity, it's going to come at the cost of other people.
And this is why, and I'm going to answer that directly, but this is why racism is so dangerous, because it creates spins. Even in repairing racism, it creates, like affirmative action, it creates spins that didn't have to be there, that then provides a level of oppression or disadvantages another group. When you're looking at white privilege, in my lived experience, I said that already, that's what we're talking about. It creates disadvantages for us largely that I think you asked, the question was, what would it look like if we got there? Where's the end of the journey? Well, the end of the journey is equality in every phase of life. I don't want to be profiled as a black man. I don't want to be discounted because I'm black to provide a service for something that my ethnic group is not traditionally known for. I'd like to show up and people see my blackness as a strength. And unfortunately, outside of the black community, that's not always the case. My blackness is not seen as a strength, but it is a strength. Even black women, there's this concept of black girl magic, because, you know, we kill it in all the different areas, and in mathematics and athletics and science. And I think that the idea of where that end would be is, just like dominant cultural groups are seen as a strength because they have the widest appeal, what if ethnic groups, racially charged communities see my blackness as a strength? I think that'd be powerful.
You talked about equality, and I know that there's a lot of debate on what equality means. I've heard terms like equality of opportunities and equality of outcomes thrown out. Where does this like fit in for you? What type of equality are you hoping for?
Well, for me, let me tell you about some disadvantages I experience, and this is generally true. I get together with my black friends, and we laugh. They're doctors and they're lawyers and they're business owners and entrepreneurs. All of them are much more wealthy than I'll probably ever be, and so it's great to be in their company. I think they could bail me out if I ever got in any trouble.
That's good.
But
everyone needs a good friend to call.
Absolutely. But the beautiful thing about that is that a part of that is forged by experience. You know the kinds of things we laugh about? How many times have you been arrested?
I've actually been arrested once.
Yeah. That's what we talk about.
Yeah.
How many times were you pulled over?
Yeah.
What was your and so I think equality would look like if another generation didn't have to have those types of conversations. Okay, I think that would be equality. I think equality would be our schools and our academic learning environments reflect a single standard of excellence that's applied in every ethnic community in the United States. I think disproportionate numbers of people that are incarcerated, particularly black people. I think if prosecution looked equal, and these are all areas, and I think that's what makes it so difficult to talk about racism or white privilege, because there's so many areas that affect people in so many different ways.
Yeah, I'm thinking about a podcast that I've heard talking about like the idea of change and why it's so hard to change anything, and it's because people are afraid. But there was a really great insight. People aren't afraid of change, they're afraid of loss. And I think of like, how do we get to equality? And I think for many people, they see this disparity, let's say white privilege and the black experience, and many are afraid that what equality looks like is take away the privilege of white people.
Yeah.
But what I think I'm hearing, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, like you're not trying to take anything away. You're just saying, hey, all of the advantages that you guys have, like it would be great if it was available for everybody.
I think that is the heart of it, but it would be unfair for me not to acknowledge that there is an element. There is a small group that feels that would be the right thing.
A small group that says they want to take
it away, to give them no advantages, and that's unfair, and that's not reasonable, and that's not what we represent. That's not our identity as Americans. That's not our identity as African Americans. That's not the large. And I think it's important to acknowledge that there are some that feel that way, because if you don't, then those who listen to this or hear this conversation will say, "You just want to take everything I have and I work for," and that's not the conversation.
No, not at all.
The conversation is equality. Let's make sure everybody has the same advantage. Let's make sure that we all are working from a level playing field, and I think that is really what we're aiming for. Well, let me just give an example here that I think accurately represents this conversation about white privilege. There are divergences in the African American community where people excel and they go to white schools or what are considered white schools, and they have great amenities and educational opportunities. And that's true. But that wasn't my experience. And I don't think that's largely the experience of the African American community. The schools are different. I went to a black school and it did not have the same amenities and resources that my friends who went to the white school had. I went to a camp in the summer. It was an incredible experience. I'm not diminishing the experience. I'm talking about the attention to resources, the financial.
What does that look like? You're talking about a school that doesn't have amenities. What kind of amenities are you missing?
If we play basketball against the white school and we go to their gym, we're wowing. This is incredible. I go to my gym at my school. We're like, okay, mop up the water because of the leak in the roof, and let's get our game going. That was a part of our court experience versus theirs. Okay, it's same in our summer camps. I went to a camp. They had to bring horses over from the white camp. And I think that a part of white privilege that really strikes a chord in the black community is being willing to say, in the dominant cultural role, hey, this isn't right. Where are the black kids? Where are the black scientists, future scientists or future leaders? Why aren't they here? And what are they experiencing where they are? So our experience is tremendous, but that experience it's like kind of like the rose growing through the crack. Yeah. It's still beautiful, but it shouldn't have had to go through the crack. We want the fertile ground like everybody else has.
So would the goal be to have white schools that have a certain amount of amenities and then black schools that have a certain amount of amenities? Like, to me, that even seems like maybe part of the problem, that there are two separate schools. Like,
Well, that's a whole segregation conversation and the benefits for pros and cons. I think fundamentally you're talking about, let's give it the same attention. Let's resource it the same. Let's not consider it because it's black or white. Let's consider it because it's education. Let's not consider it because it's black or white. Let's consider it because it's extracurricular development, it's character development. I think that's really where we want to be.
It's not about black or white. It's about kids getting a good education.
Wouldn't that be
period.
amazing?
Yeah, I think
I'd be happy to live in that kind of world. I don't want people to say, well, you're black, Riley, to my daughter. And so I want to make sure you have all of the opportunity. I love it if Riley is just a kid and she's treated like every other kid. And that would be really important to me.
Next time on I'm Listening, you actually used to work with cops, right?
I did. I was a chaplain for a police department, and I have a heart for them. They're putting their lives on the line. I am not completely satisfied with anyone that says all cops are good and they're just doing their job. That's not true. It can't be true. They're going to be bad apples in every group, but the problem with policing is that that's just not the kind of profession you can afford to have a bad apple in.